Hey, what's up, everybody? We have a new YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe right now. Leave a comment on the video. Share it with your friends. It's also a podcast, 3 and Out, wherever you listen with me, John Middlekauff, Apple, Spotify. We have you covered, as well as thevolume.com. We have merch. Check out. I got 3 and Out hats right now. Thevolume.com. Search the podcast. Buy some merch. Okay, let's dive into the mailbag. At John Middlekauff is the Instagram. And get your question answered here on the show. 2 Fs, at John Middlekauff, Instagram, DMs wide open. Fire in those direct messages. Eagles fan here. After the playoff loss, I'm torn on what to do with the head coach. Is it worse to keep a coach that melts down and possibly lost the team, or keep firing a coach after coach, a la the Browns, Jets, Raiders, Carolina, a.k.a. the bad teams? You're not them. Do you know what the Jets, the Raiders would do to make the playoffs 3 straight years? They sell their left leg. Do you know what those franchises would? The Jets haven't made the playoffs in like 15 years. The Raiders have been to the playoffs twice in 2 decades. Twice. Think about that. Say that out loud. Twice. And they've been worked both times. So you're not have anything in common. Your standards are high. So part of like being a winner, like, is the guy good enough or not? I think it's fair to ask the question, is this guy good enough to keep? My answer is no. I would fire him after what we just witnessed. I think that's a fireable offense. I think you could fire a coach and go, we're not the Raiders. We're not the Jets. Because you're not. You are not. So I don't think it's that crazy to make a move and still look at yourself differently than that. Okay, finish listening to today's pod. Kind of an odd question. I love football, the Colts. I'm a season ticket holder, and I'm glued to my TV on Sundays, Mondays, and Thursdays. In the process of starting a pod. I know everyone had a pod nowadays. This is just a hobby, though, to share my opinions. How do you balance family with doing your job? You obviously need to watch the games you speak on it. I'm recently engaged, don't live with my fiance yet, but she gets kind of agitated with the fact that I love football this much. How do you balance watching football for your job with the family? Well, it's just me and her. I don't have kids yet, which I've already thought, like, I'm going to have to, and I've thought about this since I've moved here, get an operation, build an operation here in general, but an office, I'm not going to travel far. So somewhere in the couple mile radius from where I'm at. But like, this is not my hobby. This is not a passion project. This is my life. So when I'm spending time with the people I love, like, they get it. This is not, it's hard to describe any other way than that. Now, I also think if I was doing this and not, I'm almost 40 years old. So if I wasn't making any money doing this, it would be very fair for people to ask questions, right? But that's not the case. So financially, I think helps kind of quiet the burdens. It's just unique. It's not very relatable to anyone. Like, what do you do? Yeah, just watch games, talk about it. I just watch TV and talk about it. Like, that's essentially my job, right? Just have opinions on things that I watch on television or the internet. And I think at first, not that it throws people off, but it's just, is this real? Right. And I can understand parents questioning it. Like, wait, you're going to marry my daughter and do this? Like, and they're like, oh, damn, it's a nice house. How much you spend on the remodel? Where's all this money coming from? Yeah, it's a pretty lucrative profession. It was taking me a while, but I think that's part of it. So totally understand what you're saying. It helps. My girlfriend likes football. My parents and my family and people I associate with like sports. Right. It would be harder in a situation, especially starting a relationship, if they just didn't like it. It would probably wouldn't be sustainable. Now, the amount I watch can drive anyone crazy, and it does. That's why I got 6 TVs in the house, so like I can go to other rooms, but it can be a lot. I mean, it can. But any job, can be that someone takes a lot of time to do. And I spend a lot of hours doing this shit. Just like I'm sure a lot of people listening spend a lot of hours at work. Like it comes with the territory. Most people don't have success by just working a couple hours a day, right? So there's a balance of life that there's no right or wrong answer. There's no easy way to do this, but like Thursday nights during the fall, like I can't really go, like I don't go out, like we don't go like out to dinner or anything, right? Monday night, same thing. So Sundays, I'm here all day. You just kind of build your life around different days, just like anyone that works. Some people work the night shift. Some people hours are differently. Some people travel a lot. It's life. You just kind of figure it out. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official betting partner of the NFL playoffs, is bringing you an offer to help make the playoffs electrifying. New customers can bet $5 on any game and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook now and use code JOHN. New customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code JOHN JOHN. The crown is yours. Longtime listener, I believe that you're going to explode in the industry. I like this Will guy. Here's my question. We're exploding, by the way. What do the Broncos do with the 12th overall pick this year? If Williams, May, and Daniels are off the board, they will be. I think Penix could work in the system, but given his injury history, is he worth the risk at pick 12? Do they move up and definitely grab Daniels? Well, let's think about Sean Payton, what he's desired, right? Post Drew Brees. He has wanted a more athletic quarterback. One of the knocks with Russell Wilson was like, bro, you got fat last year. So what did they harp on? Like, lose some weight, gain some of your mobility back. And he did, but the problem was his playmaking wasn't there. It's why he had such high aspirations for Taysom Hill, because he wanted like this playmaker. Now, he's not that guy, even though Taysom Hill is a good football player. Taysom Hill could play on my football team any day of the week. He's just not a quarterback. He's like this running back, hybrid, fullback, tight end thing. But he's a good NFL football player. He's just not a quarterback. Sean Payton, and the Saints realized that over time. I don't know if Sean ever did. But I think the problem with Penix is he's a lot like Drew Brees, which is a good thing. I'm not saying, but no mobility. And I think moving forward, the desire for coaches, modern day offensive coaches, to have some mobility. You don't have to be Lamar Jackson, but you got to be able to move. Look at Jordan Love's movements. Look at Brock Purdy's movements. The Baker Goff is a little bit of a throwback. Obviously, Baker moves better than Goff. Josh and Mahomes. I mean, Josh is an elite athlete. Mahomes is a fantastic athlete. CJ's proven to be a pretty good athlete, and Lamar is one of the greatest athletes we've ever seen at the position. So I think mobility is key, man. I think that's what Sean Payton's going to want. So Penix is a good player. I really like him. Seeing what Sean Payton has wanted over the last 4 or 5 years of his coaching career, I'd be a little shocked if they went that way. Sending this again to get on the top of the inbox, not to be annoying. We've seen how these star NFL quarterback contracts keep resetting the market. Do you feel like the same can be true on the downside when you look at the disasters like Russ and Deshaun Watson? In other words, will teams be more hesitant to give these types of guarantees in the future, or these just examples of the downside risk of doing business? I think it's somewhere in the middle. Anytime you give a massive contract, like I understood Jalen Hurts getting a big contract. He literally just looked better than Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl as a thrower. What are you going to do? Like, not give him a contract? He's not going to accept some low-end deal. So they gave him. Now, he looked dramatically worse this season. There's no way around. I don't care. Like, someone in my Twitter replies was like, his analytics and all the advanced stats say, are you fucking watching him play? He looks worse than last season. We all agree to that. And whether it's banged up, whether it's sustainability, and as an executive told me, he looks much closer this year to the guy a lot of people were unsure of coming out of Oklahoma, not the guy we saw last year. So I think the question is, like, you can't be fooled by these anomalies, right? Like, I'm not giving Brock Purdy a lot of money till he does it year after year after year. And I think sometimes you pay these guys until they've proven it, right? Like, I'm sorry, Tua, you're playing on the $23 million. I can't extend you. How could you extend Tua Tagovailoa right now? I don't mean to cut him. I don't need to trade him. It's what makes Dak so complicated. Wait, I'm going to give Dak an extension, so then I'm just stuck with him again? Now, there is a fine line of like, and this is where the Cowboys are kind of stuck. Like, how are they going to upgrade over Dak? But is that just the mindset any human always has? Just, oh, how can we upgrade? How can we upgrade? Well, if you just stick with that mindset, you're never going to try anything. You're just going to stay in your lane and you're going to get lapped. Like, eventually you got to take some swings. Because once upon a time, like, how are you going to upgrade Drew Bledsoe? Well, this guy in the 6th round named Tom Brady is dramatically better. Maybe not today, but in 3 years, it won't even be close. And if Bill Belichick didn't have the cojones to say, like, yeah, we're not going back to Drew Bledsoe. We're going with this guy. Because it's easy to go, well, let's give Trey Lance another shot. How about not? How about we don't? Right? It took a lot of balls. I don't care how weird things got to go, you know what? We're going to trade Aaron Rodgers. We're going to go with Jordan Love. Just like it took a lot of balls for them to go, you know what, Brett Favre? We're done with this crap. We're going to go with Aaron Rodgers. It's easy to look back and go, of course you do that. It wasn't the same at the time. Everyone thinking Ted Thompson was a loon. A lot of people thought, like, Gutekunst LaFleur, man, this thing's going to get... I thought that. So sometimes in life, you got to just have balls. You got to just be willing to take some swings. You got to be willing to fail, right? If you're just going to stay in the slow lane or the middle lane, like, watch all the cars pass you in the left lane. Now, sometimes you get in the left lane, you go a little fast, you might get a crash. But you get a crash in the slow lane too. Just because you stay with what you've been doing doesn't guarantee it's going to work either. So the contracts are tough because there is no like, yeah, let's just give the guy $100 million instead of $250 million. Like, that doesn't exist. But I do think you got to draw a line in the sand and be like, yeah, we're not giving this much money to this guy. I've never understand this in the NBA. It's like, yeah, let's just give this guy the max, give this guy the max. No wonder 90% of you suck. Like, how are you paying these guys? Well, we got to. How do you upgrade? Well, it's like, what the fuck are you doing? No wonder the majority of teams are so irrelevant. Good for the players. Like, they're making a ton, but most of them don't impact winning. Huge fan of the pod for a couple years now. While I appreciate the football takes and the betting discussions with Stuckey, let us not ignore the fact that you're the hottest golf bettor in the game right now. Thagala and now Poston, nice work. Let's keep it rolling. Do you have any feelings on La Quinta? I do. I went to cash my JT Poston bet. Got a nice little 4-figure return. I actually went to the ATM. I posted it, and I'm just going to, instead of having to go to the casino every time, like, why don't I just use the DraftKings app? So now I'm just using the DraftKings app, and we will put those out Wednesday. I'll put my bets out because I just made a ton. I'm going to keep riding JT Poston. He's hot. Akshay Bhatia, going to ride him. Billy Horschel, going to ride him. I think Justin Thomas and Jason Day are two good guys to keep an eye on, maybe a little win equity, top 5, but top 10s are what I'm going to continue hammering. I almost hit 3 top 10s last week that would have paid about $4,500 in about $700 worth of bets. I missed it by a 3-putt and a shitty chip. Akshay had 2 3-putts on the back 9, missed the top 10 by 1 shot, and Eric Cole just had a couple bad holes. I have a theory I want your take on. For years now, I've heard the most important positions in football are quarterback, left tackle, edge, and corner, which I don't disagree with. And by the way, but could I make the argument that the inside linebacker is what really makes a defense? Yeah, you could. If you look at the 2 best teams in the league, Baltimore and San Francisco, they have what no other team other than Tampa has, and that's 2 elite inside linebackers. Elite would be strong. I think there is a drop-off between Roquan and Patrick Queen, and there's definitely a drop-off between Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, but I know what you're saying. I think their ability to cover with these guys can almost completely shut down offenses because they never have to sub one out for a secondary player and make them vulnerable in the run like Dallas. They also can completely shut down the middle of the field throws and make an offense completely operate outside the numbers, which is why I think the Niners own the Cowboys and the Eagles, because they make limited quarterbacks beat you with really hard throws, and they aren't known for making. I've always said this. And listen, I work for the Eagles, who do not take the middle linebacker position seriously. And then immediately I started being around the Harbaugh Niners with Bowman and Willis. And then I've seen this Niner team with Fred Warner, and I've seen it for years in the league. It's my favorite position on defense. Ray Lewis is one of my favorite players of all time. But Brian Urlacher, Luke Kuechly, when you get that player, it changes your defense because they can cover tight ends. They can make 12 to 15 tackles in the run game or in space. Think how many plays that lead to a first down are wheel routes or, some play around the line of scrimmage. Well, who makes the majority of those tackles? Your middle linebacker, right? And then their ability to blitz. Look at the Rams, who got dramatically better on defense this year. Why do you think? Did you watch 53 Jones play? I think Ernest Jones, the second, I think his name is. He's awesome. To me, he's like one of the most underrated players in the league. This is not I didn't create this saying, I stole it, but it's so true. Michael Lombardi says, and he's been saying it for years, when your middle linebacker is fast, your defense is fast. When your middle linebacker is a baller, typically your defense is solid. I mean, is there a reason that some of the great middle linebackers in the history of the league have all been on the best defenses ever? So this notion, do you know what I think is the most overrated position in the league? Corner. I swear to God, I would much rather have Ray Lewis, Patrick Willis, Luke Kuechly, Fred Warner, and figure it out outside. Like, I saw the 49ers. They made it to a championship game with no corners. None. What's his name that used to play for the Redskins and the Panthers? Josh Norman was playing corner for them. He couldn't cover me or you, but their linebackers and their D-line were elite. I think any team that overlooks linebacker are just not doing it correctly. Seriously. To me, middle linebacker is easily one of the most important positions. Here's the other thing. A lot like tight end, they're cheap. They don't cost that much money. So when you do hit on a star linebacker or a star tight end, you don't pay them defensive end or wide receiver money. Google how much Fred Warner makes. Look how much Roquan Smith makes. You want to pay Trent Williams or pay TJ Watt, like they're expensive. You want to trade for Devontae Adams or Tyreek Hill. Look how much those guys make. Think how much money Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase are going to make this offseason. So to me, tight end and linebacker, you get Laporta. Laporta is not just going to be one of the best players in the league. He's going to be one of the great values easily in the NFL. Just like Travis Kelce, just like George Kittle, just like Mark Andrews. Like, these guys are not that expensive. Same thing with linebackers. They do not cost you $32 million. I don't know how much Fred makes, but I'm pretty sure it's like $13, $14, $15 million. I hear you. That's not a theory. That's a reality. You get a good middle linebacker. How many teams in the league did you watch the Buccaneers play last night? Levante David and Devon White flying around, making all those tackles. Seattle forever. Obviously, they had good players. One of their best players was Bobby Wagner. When your middle linebacker is a stud, it's hard for your defense to suck. Hell, and if you hit on a couple other players on that defense, your defense is usually awesome. Is it shocking that the Ravens traded for Roquan Smith? Is it? Like they were the team that wanted him? If the Bills lose to the Chiefs again this year, is it time to fire McDermott? This is the weakest Chiefs team of the last 5 years, and you have them at home. If you can't beat them this year, when can you? Given the plethora of coaching candidates out there, it might be time to make a move. As crazy as it sounds, because won the division 4 straight times, won a ton of playoff games, I don't think you're crazy. I think there's legit pressure. The Bills have to win this game. This is must win for the Bills. And the Chiefs this year, this is their throwaway season. They are, as crazy as it sounds, because they got Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. This is a house money game. This is the first time he's ever played on the road, Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. And he's an underdog. When's the last time the Chiefs have been an underdog in a playoff game? All of the pressure is on the Buffalo Bills this weekend. All of it. So if he were to lose, I think that, like you said, given the options out there, I think there would be some rumblings. I do. And he's done an awesome job, but I expect them to win. I would say, and I don't bet against Andy and Mahomes. I mean, I think they are going to, when it's all said and done, they got 4 Super Bowls in them. They've already won 2. I think they got 2 more. Because I'm telling you, they're gonna turn this thing around in the next offseason or 2. They're gonna be better in 3 years from now than they were last year. I'll promise you that. I would bet money on that. But the Bills, you got to take advantage of these opportunities. You got to take advantage of these opportunities. So I'm with you. I think there is tangible pressure on Buffalo. more this game. The next week gets the Ravens. Like they'll be an underdog in that game on the road, assuming that the Ravens beat the Texans. But I don't think you're crazy on this one. So good question. Question for the Steelers and team discipline. Tomlin, I guess, told the team in his team exit meeting that he plans on returning. I don't put much stock into that. I still think there's a chance everything's on the table with Mike Tomlin. For years, Coach T has been public with his willingness to tolerate what I would call behavior detrimental to the team. The comments of some players after the Bills' loss, notably Harris, point to this as a problem that has come home to roost. Is Coach T and the Steelers, are Coach T and are the Steelers as an organization less disciplined than other NFL teams when it comes to setting standards and enforcing the rules? I read some of Najee's comments, who I thought actually played pretty well down the stretch of the season. I've been critical of that draft pick because I didn't think he was that good, but I thought he had a solid season, especially the second half of the year. I think what he's alluding to is basically I came from Alabama, and we didn't tolerate bullshit. Now, it's easier in college if someone's screwing around to bench that guy for the next guy because the gap is not that wide. I think he's essentially saying like George Pickens, right, can do things that would not have been tolerated at Alabama. George Pickens would have been benched, cut, forced to transfer. I don't care how good he is. Nick Saban would not have tolerated that. In the NFL, it's a little more difficult. It truly is. Now, you can argue what you tolerate, you allow in your organization, and that spills over to everything. He's also easily their best weapon. Now, is he good enough to allow to, just cause problems? I think that's a fair argument. But, and they've dealt with these guys, and it's not like they ever won a Super Bowl with Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell, and now with George Pickens. But I think it's an easier thing to say what Najee was saying, like essentially like this is not allowed at Alabama. Well, yeah, no shit. If they had the next George Pickens who was acted like Devontae Adams or Cooper Kupp, they would bench George Pickens, but they don't. They need him. And the reason he can be a problem is his talent. Now, you could argue, like, why are they always taking flyers on these guys? Because it's worked for them in the past. Right? Remember James Harrison? Pretty big red flag guy. Say that guy turned out to be a pretty good player for them. And then historically, that organization, they got a little Raiders Al Davis to him, which I'm not opposed to. Andy Reid, Pete Carroll, so do they. So there's no right or wrong way to do it. There really isn't. And George Pickens was a huge red flag coming out of college. But as you see him play, like he's clearly pretty talented. Got a lot of ability. But he might not block on a run play and say he doesn't want to get hurt. I don't know. I don't think that's the issue with Tomlin. I really don't. I think he's just very dependent on his offensive coordinator and his quarterback, like most defensive coaches. And right now, he's got a trio of quarterbacks who, the best one is probably Mason Rudolph. Like Mason Rudolph's probably better than Kenny Pickett. Think about that. That's why if I'm Mike Tomlin, I want out. I want to go somewhere else. I'd want out. I'd want to go to Washington. I'd want to go to Adam Peters, draft a quarterback high, start over. Kind of get toward home. Not that, as you get older, what's home? But I'm just saying, get a lot of money, just get a fresh start, be appreciated. I don't think he gets the appreciation there. I'm talking about from the Rooneys, but I think the fans are down on him. I'm a big believer. Divorce, when it comes to coaching, is very healthy with successful guys. Pete Carroll, Andy Reid. Look at Mike McCarthy, got a fresh start in Dallas. He got an incredible opportunity. He just didn't take care of it. Belichick running out of Cleveland. It happens in a lot of places, man. The Shanahan family and all those guys were fired in Washington. I think sometimes you just need a fresh start. You just need to take a deep breath. Mike Tomlin's a really good coach. I want to see him coach somewhere else because I think I think he's peaked in Pittsburgh, which is not bad. The 80% of the league would like to be as consistently successful as him, but if you're him, like, don't you want to get back to the next level? And I just don't think you're getting there in Pittsburgh.